Get up there! Get up there! Get up! Hold up there! Now, driver, get off that stage, but before you do, throw down that box. You folks inside the stage, I'd be obliged if you'd come out, and quickly, and just line up here in front of the stage. We ain't through with you yet. Stagecoach robberies became a way of living for bandits just after the gold rush got underway in California in 1848. The California wilderness grew thick with thieves who hoped to get the precious gold by flashing a six-shooter instead of flashing a gold pan and a pickaxe. Most stagecoach robbers followed a pattern for robbing stagecoaches like this. A gang of robbers between 5 and 10 in number would find a secluded spot along the road and wait for the stage to come by. Usually the robbers got inside information about which stage was coming where and how much loot was on it and which road they were taking. Then one of the gang members, usually the leader, he'd step out on the highway masked and he'd say, "Hold up there, driver!" And before the driver could reach for his guns, because he had to let go of the reins in his hand, it was too late. The stagecoach was surrounded by robbers. They'd ask the people to step out and line up, and then one of the masked men would collect the wallets, purses, rings, watches, anything of value. The box would then be dropped down, shot open. The money and gold, whatever was in there of value, would be transferred to a bag. Then the gang would quickly scatter in all different directions, only to meet later at a clubhouse and split the loot up. Now, on the other hand, when Indians robbed stagecoaches, that was a different story. It was much more dangerous. What they'd do is they'd rob everybody like the white man, and then afterwards they'd kill and scalp all aboard because they didn't want the white man to get an idea of going out west was going to be a picnic. And therefore they'd try to scare them bad enough, hopefully keeping settlers out of the Indian lands. Between 1870 and 1884, the Wells Fargo stage line alone had over $1 million stolen in over 300 robberies. One of the most successful and persistent stage robbers of the Old West was a man named Black Bart. Old Black Bart was an unusual sort of stage robber. He did his robberies alone with an unloaded double-barrel shotgun. Of course, no one knew that, and they wasn't about to experiment to see if it was loaded or not, so they obliged him. He became known as the gentleman stage robber, because after each of his 28 robberies in all, between 1875 and 1883, he'd leave the driver a bit of poetry as a sort of calling card. Never roughed up or hurt anybody. After collecting the gold and money, Black Bart would ride off with a flour sack mask and then reappear as a respectable San Francisco mustached gentleman named C.E. Bolton, gold-top cane with all the trimmings. Like most criminals, the Wells Fargo caught up with him through expert detective work and Secret Service agents. He spent 6 years in San Quentin prison. Then finally, after being released, he moved to New York and lived the rest of his life reformed. He died in 1917 at the age of 67, the latter years of his life working for a living. Like a good many boys, I guess I too had the temptation to steal back when I was just even 8 years old, just a little guy. I'll tell you a story. I had a buddy named Andrew, and one day he and I decided to become blood brothers. I don't know where we got the idea, maybe an old Lone Ranger movie or something, but I remember going to my mom's pincushion and taking out a pin out of her pincushion, and we both stuck our thumbs. Ow, boy, that hurt, and blood was hanging out there. Oh, Andrew, we gonna be blood brothers. We stuck our thumbs together and rubbed some of that blood around, and we became the blood brother team. Well, usually in every friendship, you have a brain and you have a dummy. Well, in this friendship, I was the dummy and Andrew was the brain. And as blood brothers, we'd do anything together, mostly mischievous deeds, unfortunately. Well, one fine, clear summer day in L.A., that's before smog was a problem, my blood brother Andrew got a brainstorm of an idea. We'd go collect Coke bottles. Back then, they were small, thick ones. They were worth about 2 cents a bottle. Then, after some fine big city searching, we headed to the mom-and-pop's market down the street from our house. Andrew the Brain said, "Hey, Dickie," that was my nickname then, "why don't we why don't we go in there with the bottles, and when old man Johnson turns around to get the money out of the cash box, we can get that loose candy from the candy bowl on the counter. What do you think? Oh, I said, Andrew, you are brilliant. Oh, it's going to work good. Let's go try it. Then he said, well, I'll wait outside. No use both of us being in there. Yeah, me the dummy said, good. I'll get caught and you don't. That's how dumb I was. But anyway, so I went in there. It was just like Andrew said. Old man Johnson turned around to the register. His back was turned to me. I was all alone in there. And right there in front of my eyeballs was the candy. You probably don't like chocolate candy, but I was crazy about it. Oh, my hand reached out there like I was going for a six-shooter. And there I grabbed it. But before I had it in my hand, in my left ear I heard a voice. Hey, don't do that. Thou shalt not steal. Ooh, my hand drew back. But then in my right ear, oh, come on, you chicken. He's not going to miss a little candy. Look how much he's got in this store. I figured that voice was right. That's the devil speaking. Well, I reached out there and started to get that candy. But then I heard my left ear again. Don't do that. You're going to get into trouble. That's the Holy Spirit speaking. You see, I was raised a good little Catholic boy. Learned the 10 Commandments. And I knew that was bad. So my hand drew back. He says, you know, if you go on and steal that, you're going to get the police in here on you, and you're going to be in big trouble. Oh, I was agreeing with that voice. And besides, your dad, he find out about this, he's going to give you a licking you'll never forget. Oh, I heard that voice for sure. But then my other hand wanted to come out, and oh, there was this wrestling, yes and no, going back and forth. And then Mr. Johnson turned around. Fortunately, I didn't have any candy in my hand. And he says, well, we want to buy something? I says, no, it's okay, Mr. Johnson. So I walked outside, and Andrew says, hey, Dickie boy, did you get the candy? I go, no, Andrew, I just got the money. Aw. You let me down, but don't you worry. We'll figure up another crime. I'll tell you about that one another time. But let me close with this idea. In 1 Thessalonians 4:11, the Bible tells us that we should work with our own hands. That's a simple thought. Do you know what's sinful about stealing and being a thief? Is that you're robbing someone of what they worked hard to get, and thus breaking a second commandment that Jesus told us, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And think about this, in heaven there are no thieves.